The morning started like any other Tuesday for Admiral Jake Morrison. He was drinking his coffee on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valiant when the alarms began screaming. His hands moved to the communication panel as reports flooded in from space monitoring stations around the solar system. "Admiral, we have massive energy signatures appearing near Jupiter," Lieutenant Commander Sam Bradley reported from his station. "These readings are unlike anything we've ever seen." Jake set down his coffee and moved to the main display screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of crystalline ships were emerging from what looked like tiers in space itself. Each vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleships. Their surfaces gleamed with an otherworldly light that seemed to bend the stars around them. "Get me Captain Lisa Hughes at Orbital Defense Platform Alpha," Jake ordered. Within seconds, Lisa's face appeared on the communication screen. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail and her blue eyes showed the same concern Jake felt. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" "Copy that, Jake. My sensors are going crazy. Whatever those ships are, they're powered by something we don't understand. The energy readings are off our charts." Jake watched as more alien vessels continued to pour through the spatial rifts. The fleet seemed endless. "How many do you count?" "Over 300 ships so far, and they're still coming," Lisa replied. "Jake, if these are hostile, we're in serious trouble." The answer came 15 minutes later when every communication device on Earth received the same message. The voice that spoke was mechanical and cold, using broken English mixed with other human languages. "Primitive species of third planet. You will surrender all weapons and submit to Zephyrian rule. Resistance will result in complete destruction of your world. You have 1 Earth rotation to comply." Jake felt his jaw clench. Throughout human history, his species had faced many challenges, but nothing like this. "Lisa, start civilian evacuations immediately. Get everyone into the underground bunkers." "Already started, Jake, but with this many people, it's going to take days." The alien fleet began moving toward Earth with frightening speed. Their ships moved without any visible propulsion, simply gliding through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. Jake ordered all Earth Defense Force ships to battle positions, knowing they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. President Helen Carter's voice crackled over the emergency frequency. "Admiral Morrison, you have full authorization to defend Earth by any means necessary. Don't let these aliens think humanity will go down without a fight." "Understood, Madam President. We'll give them hell." The first wave of alien fighters screamed into Earth's atmosphere 6 hours after the initial warning. They were sleek, silver craft that moved like liquid mercury through the air. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that carved through buildings like a hot knife through butter. Captain Lisa Hughes coordinated the orbital defense platforms as they opened fire on the approaching fighters. Earth's missiles and energy weapons struck the alien craft but seemed to have little effect. The aliens had some kind of energy shield that absorbed most of the damage. "Jake, our weapons are barely scratching them," Lisa reported. "Their shields are deflecting everything we throw at them." Down on Earth's surface, millions of people ran for cover as the alien fighters strafed major cities. New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other metropolitan areas came under attack. The aliens seemed more interested in showing their power than causing maximum casualties. But the message was clear. Humanity was helpless against their technology. Jake watched from the Valiant as his fellow Earth Defense Force ships engaged the alien fleet in orbit. The human vessels fought bravely, but they were like insects attacking elephants. Alien energy beams cut through human ships with terrifying ease. That's when engineer Pete Carson made a discovery that would change everything. Pete was working in the wreckage of downtown Chicago when he found the remains of an alien fighter that had been shot down by a lucky missile hit. Instead of running for the shelters like everyone else, Pete started taking the craft apart. "Admiral Morrison, this is Pete Carson calling from Chicago. I'm an aerospace engineer, and I think I've found something important." Jake was surprised to receive a civilian transmission during the battle. "Carson, you need to get to safety immediately." "Sir, I'm looking at pieces of an alien fighter right now. Their shield technology isn't as advanced as we thought. I'm seeing frequency modulators that operate on a very specific wavelength. If we could adjust our weapons to match this frequency, we might be able to punch through their defenses." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Are you certain about this?" "Give me 2 hours, Admiral. I can modify a missile guidance system to target this frequency. If I'm right, their shields should collapse like tissue paper." While Pete worked frantically in the ruins of Chicago, the battle continued to rage above Earth. The alien fleet had lost only a handful of ships while destroying half of humanity's space-based defenses. It looked like the end was near for Earth's military forces, but Pete Carson was as good as his word. 2 hours later, he transmitted new targeting data to every remaining Earth Defense Force ship. The modifications were simple enough that ship engineers could implement them quickly. "Admiral, this is Carson again. I'm uploading the frequency data now. Target their ships with missiles set to this exact wavelength." Jake didn't hesitate. "All ships implement Carson's modifications immediately. Prepare for coordinated strike." The counterattack began at dawn on the second day of the invasion. Modified human missiles streaked toward the alien fleet, and for the first time they found their mark. The Zephyrian energy shields flickered and failed as the missiles struck at precisely the right frequency. Alien ships began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The aliens, who had seemed invincible just hours before, suddenly found themselves vulnerable. Jake watched with satisfaction as 20 Zephyrian vessels were destroyed in the first hour of the new assault. The alien fleet, caught completely off guard, began to retreat toward the edge of the solar system. But before they left, their commander sent one final message to Earth. "You have surprised us, humans. This victory is temporary. War Prime Kethavar will return with 10 times this force. Your world will burn for this resistance." As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Jake looked out at the debris floating in Earth's orbit. They had won this battle, but he knew it was only the beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be ready for humanity's tricks. Captain Lisa Hughes appeared on his communication screen again. "Jake, we did it. We actually beat them. For now, Lisa, but they'll be back, and when they return, we need to be ready for them." 6 months had passed since the first alien attack, and Earth was a completely different world. President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations Assembly in New York, looking out at representatives from every nation on the planet. The Great Hall buzzed with nervous energy as delegates whispered among themselves about humanity's future. "My fellow leaders," President Carter began, her voice carrying across the packed auditorium. "We all witnessed what happened 6 months ago. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians, and they promised to return with greater force. We cannot wait for that day to come unprepared." The president activated a holographic display showing construction projects around the globe. Massive factories were being built in every major country, all dedicated to producing weapons and defensive systems. "Today I am authorizing the formation of the Terran Defense Coalition. Every nation will contribute resources, technology, and personnel to ensure our survival." In the months following the first attack, humanity had worked with unprecedented cooperation. Old enemies became allies overnight as the threat of alien invasion united the species like nothing ever had before. Russian scientists shared research with American engineers while Chinese manufacturers worked alongside European designers. Dr. Amy Foster was one of the key figures in this new world order. Her laboratory in Geneva housed the most important project on Earth, studying captured Zephyrian technology and biological samples. The aliens had left behind wreckage from their destroyed ships, and even some bodies from crashed fighters. Amy bent over her microscope examining alien tissue samples. What she saw both fascinated and terrified her. The Zephyrians were not carbon-based, like humans, but seemed to be constructed from some kind of crystalline material that could think and move like living flesh. "Dr. Foster," her assistant Ben called from across the lab, "we're getting some interesting results from the computer analysis of their navigation systems." Amy moved to the main computer terminal where data scrolled across multiple screens. The information painted a disturbing picture of the galaxy beyond Earth's solar system. "Ben, are you seeing what I'm seeing?" "Yes, ma'am." According to this data, the Zephyrian Empire spans over 4,000 star systems. They've been expanding across this section of the galaxy for centuries, conquering every intelligent species they encounter. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. The aliens who had attacked Earth were not explorers or traders, but part of a vast military machine that had crushed dozens of civilizations. Earth represented the furthest edge of their expansion into this arm of the galaxy. "Send this data to Admiral Morrison immediately," Amy ordered. "He needs to know what we're really facing." Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Blake was overseeing the most ambitious construction project in human history. On the dark side of Earth's moon, thousands of workers labored around the clock to build massive orbital cannons. The weapons were designed using a combination of human engineering An alien technology recovered from the battlefield. Ryan stood in the main construction bay watching as the final components of the first cannon were installed. The weapon was enormous, stretching over 2 kilometers in length and powered by a fusion reactor that could light up a small city. Commander Blake, Engineer Sarah Kim, approached with a tablet full of technical specifications. The first Earthshaker cannon is ready for testing. The fusion core is stable and all targeting systems are online. Outstanding work, Sarah. How many more until we have full coverage? We need 12 cannons total to protect Earth from any angle of attack. 7 more are under construction and should be completed within 4 months. Ryan nodded with satisfaction. The cannons, nicknamed Earthshakers by the construction crews, represented humanity's best hope of stopping the next alien invasion. Each weapon could theoretically punch through any known shielding technology and destroy ships the size of small cities. Back on Earth, long-range sensors began detecting something that made everyone's blood run cold. Lieutenant Commander Sam Bradley was monitoring deep space communications when his instruments picked up massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Sam immediately contacted Admiral Jake Morrison, who was aboard the newly constructed flagship Defiance. The ship was humanity's most advanced vessel, built entirely with hybrid human-alien technology recovered from the first battle. Admiral, we have multiple hyperspace signatures appearing near Pluto. The energy readings match Zephyrian ship designs, but the fleet is much larger than before. Jake felt his stomach drop. They had always known this day would come, but hoped for more time to prepare. How many ships, Sam? Sir, I'm counting over 3,000 vessels and more are still arriving. This fleet is 10 times larger than the first attack force. Jake immediately opened communications with President Carter and Commander Blake. Within minutes, Earth's leadership was coordinating the planet's final diplomatic effort. They had prepared for this moment, and everyone knew what needed to be done. President Carter authorized veteran diplomat Frank Miller to transmit humanity's final warning to the approaching alien armada. Frank had spent decades negotiating international treaties, but this would be the most important message of his career. Frank stood in the main communication center as technicians prepared to broadcast on all frequencies the aliens had used during their first contact. He looked directly into the camera and spoke with the authority of his entire species behind him. This is Earth's final warning to the approaching Zephyrian fleet. 6 months ago, you attacked our world believing us to be weak and defenseless. We proved you wrong by destroying your ships and forcing your retreat. Frank paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. During these 6 months, we have studied your technology and learned from your tactics. We have built weapons specifically designed to counter your advantages. We have prepared defenses that will turn your own strength against you. The diplomat's voice grew harder as he delivered the ultimatum. Turn back now and return to your empire. This is your only opportunity to retreat with honor. If you continue your approach to Earth, you will face complete destruction. We are no longer the unprepared species you first encountered. Frank ended the transmission and waited for a response. It came within an hour and was exactly what everyone expected. The alien commander, who identified himself as Warprime Kethvar, responded with contemptuous laughter and threats. Foolish humans. Your small victory was mere luck. This time we bring the full might of the Zephyrian war machine. You will not be simply destroyed but enslaved to serve our empire for all time. As the massive alien fleet began its final approach toward Earth, humanity prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of their species. Warprime Kethvar commanded his massive fleet from the bridge of the Zephyrian super-dreadnought Dominion. The crystalline warrior stood 12 feet tall with arms that could crush steel and eyes that glowed with cold intelligence. Around him, his officers monitored the approaching human homeworld with instruments that could detect energy signatures from across star systems. Warprime, his tactical officer, reported, the human fleet appears much smaller than anticipated. I count only 200 vessels positioned near their asteroid belt. Kethvar made a sound that resembled laughter but carried no warmth. These primitive beings learned nothing from our first encounter. They dare to meet the might of 3,000 ships with such a pathetic force. The Zephyrian commander had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. His engineers had developed new shield frequencies that would resist the weapon modifications humans had used in their first battle. His ships carried the most powerful weapons in the Empire, designed to crack planets and boil oceans. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship Defiance as the alien armada approached the asteroid belt. His fleet was indeed smaller than the enemy force, but each human ship contained technology that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Every vessel was equipped with hybrid systems that combined human engineering with captured alien components. Admiral, Captain Steve Rogers reported from his fighter squadron, "Lightning Wing is in position among the asteroids. We're ready to begin hit-and-run attacks." Steve commanded 50 of humanity's best pilots flying ships that looked primitive compared to alien craft, but contained surprises the enemy couldn't imagine. Each fighter was equipped with cloaking devices, reverse-engineered from Zephyrian stealth technology and weapons that could punch through alien armor. The battle began when the first Zephyrian scout ships entered the asteroid field. Steve led his pilots in a series of lightning strikes that confused and frustrated the alien commanders. The human fighters would appear from behind asteroids, fire their weapons, then vanish again before the aliens could respond. "What is this trickery?" Kethavar demanded as reports flooded in of destroyed scout vessels. "How are these primitive craft avoiding our sensors?" His officers had no answers. The human fighters seemed to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles before melting back into the asteroid field. Within 2 hours, the Zephyrians had lost 50 ships without scoring a single hit on the elusive human pilots. Jake watched the battle unfold from his command center with satisfaction. The asteroid field had been chosen specifically because it favored smaller, more maneuverable craft over the massive alien dreadnoughts. His pilots were using the environment to their advantage just as human warriors had done throughout history. But the real surprise was waiting in Earth orbit. Commander Ryan Blake stood in the control room of Earthshaker Battery Alpha, hidden on the dark side of the moon. The 12 massive cannons were positioned around Earth's satellite, invisible to approaching enemies until the moment they fired. "Commander," Technician Sarah Kim reported, "all Earthshaker cannons are charged and ready. We have clear targeting solutions on the alien fleet." Ryan had been waiting for this moment since construction began. The cannons represented the pinnacle of human engineering combined with alien power technology. Each weapon was capable of delivering enough energy to vaporize a mountain. When the Zephyrian fleet finally reached Earth orbit, they expected to find the same weak defenses they had encountered 6 months earlier. Instead, they walked into the deadliest trap in human history. "Fire all weapons," Ryan commanded. 12 beams of pure energy erupted from the hidden moon batteries, each one focused on a different section of the alien fleet. The concentrated antimatter streams developed by physicist Dr. Kate Williams tore through Zephyrian ships like they were made of paper. The aliens' new shield frequencies proved useless against weapons that operated on completely different principles. War Prime Kethavar watched in horror as his mighty fleet began disintegrating around him. Dreadnoughts that had conquered star systems vanished in brilliant explosions. Cruisers that had never known defeat were cut in half by weapons they couldn't even detect until the moment of impact. "Impossible," Kethavar roared. "Our shields should stop any primitive weapon." But the humans had learned more than just shield frequencies from captured alien technology. They had discovered the mathematical principles behind Zephyrian power systems and built weapons specifically designed to overwhelm them. The Earthshaker cannons didn't try to penetrate alien shields but simply delivered more energy than the shields could absorb. The battle's most shocking moment came when Marine Colonel Jack Thompson led his boarding parties into action. Thompson and his Marines wore powered armor that incorporated the best of both human and alien technology. They didn't just defend their ships when aliens tried to board them but actually attacked enemy vessels. "Alpha Team, we have breached the alien cruiser Starfall," Thompson reported as his Marines fought their way through crystalline corridors. "These suits are working perfectly." The Zephyrians had never experienced humans in close combat. Their crystalline bodies were strong and their weapons were powerful, but they had no experience fighting enemies who adapted to their tactics in real time. Thompson's Marines moved through alien ships like ghosts, capturing control rooms and turning the vessel's own weapons against their former masters. Within 12 hours of entering Earth's solar system, the mighty Zephyrian fleet was destroyed or captured. War Prime Kethavar died when Thompson's Alpha Team stormed the bridge of the Dominion, the alien commander falling to human weapons in his own flagship. Only 7 Zephyrian ships managed to escape the carnage, fleeing toward hyperspace with news of the impossible defeat. As Jake watched the last alien vessel disappear, He felt a mixture of satisfaction and concern. "Lisa," he said to Captain Hughes over the communication system, "we won again, but this can't be the end." "What do you mean?" "Jake, we've now destroyed 2 of their fleets. When word reaches their empire, they'll send everything they have. We can't keep playing defense forever." Lisa understood immediately. "You're thinking we need to take the fight to them." "Exactly. We know where they come from now thanks to Dr. Foster's research. Maybe it's time the Zephyrians learned what it feels like to have their homeworld threatened." The victory celebration in Earth's capital cities lasted only 3 days before Admiral Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting of the Terran Defense Coalition. Representatives from every nation gathered in the United Nations building where just months earlier they had first united against the alien threat. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, standing before the assembled leaders with holographic displays showing star charts behind him. "We have won 2 battles against the Zephyrians, but we are far from winning this war." President Helen Carter nodded gravely from her seat in the front row. She had aged visibly during the months of constant tension, her brown hair now streaked with gray and lines of worry etched around her eyes. Jake continued his briefing. "According to data recovered from captured ships, the Zephyrian Empire controls over 4,000 star systems. The fleets we destroyed represented less than 1% of their total military strength." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Amy Foster stood up from her seat near the back of the assembly. "Admiral Morrison is correct. My analysis of their navigation computers shows that Zeph Prime, their homeworld, commands fleets that dwarf anything we've seen." Commander Ryan Blake joined the discussion from his position at the tactical display. "The way I see it, we have 2 choices. We can wait here for them to send their entire military against us, or we can strike first while they're still reeling from these defeats." The Chinese representative raised his hand. "Commander Blake, are you suggesting we attack their homeworld? That seems incredibly dangerous." "It's dangerous," Ryan admitted, "but it might be our only chance. Right now they think of us as a minor threat on their border. If we can hit their capital and destroy their shipyards, we might convince them that continued war with Earth is too costly." Jake moved to the star charts and pointed to a system marked in red. "Dr. Foster's team has located Zeph Prime using coordinates from captured navigation computers. The system is here, approximately 400 light-years from Earth." The Brazilian delegate stood up with concern written across his face. 400 light-years? How could we possibly mount an attack at such a distance? "We've been studying their hyperspace technology," Dr. Foster explained. "Engineer Pete Carson and his team believe they can modify our ships to use captured alien hyperspace drives. It would be a one-way trip initially, but we could get there." President Carter looked around the room at the worried faces of Earth's leaders. How many ships would we need for such a mission? Jake had been preparing for this question. "Intelligence suggests their home system defenses are designed to prevent rebellion from within, not invasion from outside. A force of 50 ships using hybrid technology might be enough to cause significant damage." The Russian representative shook his head. 50 ships against their entire empire. This sounds like suicide. "Maybe," Jake replied, "but consider the alternative. If we wait for them to organize a proper response, they could send 10,000 ships next time. Earth wouldn't survive that kind of assault." The debate continued for hours as leaders wrestled with the most important decision in human history. Some argued for continuing to build defenses while others supported the aggressive strategy. In the end, President Carter called for a vote. "All those in favor of authorizing the Terran Expeditionary Force," she announced. Hands slowly rose around the room until a clear majority supported the mission. 3 weeks later, the Terran Expeditionary Force assembled in Earth orbit. 50 ships built with the best hybrid human-alien technology humanity could produce, hung in space like a steel constellation. Each vessel was crewed entirely by volunteers who understood they might never see home again. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship Defiance, watching as the last ships joined the formation. Captain Lisa Hughes had been promoted to lead the fleet's reconnaissance division aboard the scout ship Explorer. Her job would be to guide the force through alien space using stolen hyperspace coordinates. "Jake," Lisa's voice came over the communication system, "my navigation computers are loaded with the route to Zeph Prime. The journey should take approximately 3 months using their hyperspace lanes. During those 3 months of travel, human engineers continued working around the clock to improve their weapons and defenses. Every captured piece of alien technology was studied and reverse engineered. The ships that would arrive at Zeph Prime would be even more dangerous than those that had left Earth. Captain Steve Rogers commanded the fighter squadrons aboard the carrier Freedom. His pilots practiced combat maneuvers in the ship's launch bays, preparing for battles in alien star systems. Each fighter had been upgraded with the latest hybrid technology, making them faster and deadlier than anything in the Zephyrian military. The journey through hyperspace was unlike anything humans had ever experienced. Reality seemed to bend and twist around the ships as they traveled through dimensions that existed beyond normal space and time. Some crew members reported strange dreams where they could see the entire galaxy spread out like a map. When the fleet finally emerged from hyperspace near Zeph Prime, what they found surprised everyone. The alien homeworld was a massive crystal sphere orbiting a binary star system. Dozens of moons surrounded the planet, each one converted into a massive shipyard where new vessels were constructed. "Admiral," Lisa reported from her scout ship, "I'm reading minimal defensive forces. Most of their fleet appears to be deployed across the Empire. The shipyards are practically undefended." Jake studied the tactical displays with amazement. For centuries, the Zephyrians had been the aggressors, expanding outward while their core worlds remained safe behind layers of conquered territory. They had never faced an enemy capable of striking at their heart. "All ships begin attack runs on the orbital shipyards," Jake commanded. "Captain Rogers, launch all fighter squadrons." The attack began with surgical precision. Human bombers, led by pilot Susan Clark and her squadron, struck the massive construction facilities with weapons designed specifically to destroy alien technology. Within hours, shipyards that had been building warships for centuries were reduced to glowing debris. The few Zephyrian defenders that responded were quickly overwhelmed by human tactics they had never encountered. Earth's ships moved with coordination and flexibility that the rigid alien command structure couldn't match. The destruction of the Zephyrian orbital shipyard sent shockwaves throughout their empire that reached far beyond the physical damage. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, the crystalline warriors faced an enemy that had brought war directly to their doorstep. High Chancellor Vexithara stood in the emergency council chamber on Zeph Prime, her towering crystal form crackling with electrical energy that betrayed her fear and rage. Around the circular chamber, the Empire's greatest military leaders gathered to discuss what many believed was impossible. "How did these primitive mammals penetrate our defenses?" Vexithara demanded, her voice resonating through the crystal walls like breaking glass. "How did they travel 400 light-years to attack our homeworld?" General Morketh, commander of the Home Defense Forces, projected holographic images of the human attack. "High Chancellor, these beings have somehow acquired our hyperspace technology and improved upon it. Their ships moved through our space using our own navigation routes. The images showed human fighters destroying Zephyrian shipyards with terrifying efficiency." The alien leaders watched in stunned silence as centuries of military construction vanished in clouds of superheated plasma and twisted metal. Admiral Jake Morrison established his command post on the captured Zephyrian orbital station Nexus Prime, the largest military facility in the enemy star system. From this position, he could coordinate the blockade of Zeph Prime while his forces systematically dismantled the Empire's war machine. "Lisa," Jake called to Captain Hughes over the communication system. "Status report on the blockade. All hyperspace jump points are secured. Jake, no ships can enter or leave this system without our permission. We've effectively cut Zeph Prime off from the rest of their empire." The blockade was having exactly the effect Jake had hoped for. Supply ships carrying resources from conquered worlds could no longer reach the Zephyrian homeworld. Military vessels attempting to return home found human forces blocking every approach route. Colonel Jack Thompson had perhaps the most dangerous job in the entire operation. His Marine units were tasked with securing alien research facilities on the various moons of Zeph Prime. These installations contained technology that could ensure Earth's continued advantage in any future conflicts. "Alpha Team to Admiral Morrison," Thompson reported from the surface of the research moon Kethval. "We've secured the primary weapons laboratory." "Sir, what we're finding here is incredible." Thompson and his Marines moved through crystalline corridors filled with technology that seemed to blend science and art. The Zephyrians had developed weapons capable of destroying entire star systems and defensive systems that could protect planets from any known attack. "Colonel, can our people understand this technology?" Jake asked. Dr. Foster's science teams are already analyzing everything, Admiral. Some of these devices are beyond our current understanding, but the basic principles are becoming clear. If we can adapt this technology for human use, no alien force in the galaxy could threaten Earth again. Meanwhile, panic was spreading throughout the Zephyrian Empire as word of the attack reached distant star systems. Military commanders who had never known defeat found themselves facing reports that seemed impossible to believe. Governor Nalthex of the Outer Colonies sent desperate messages to High Chancellor Vexithara demanding explanations. How can a single primitive world challenge our entire empire? These humans were supposed to be easily conquered slaves. But the most shocking news came from intelligence reports gathered by human reconnaissance teams. Captain Steve Rogers led scout missions throughout Zephyrian space, using captured alien ships to blend in with enemy formations. Admiral Morrison, Steve reported from deep within enemy territory, "You're not going to believe what we've discovered. The Zephyrian Empire is built entirely on fear and intimidation. Most of their subject species are held in line by the threat of military force, not loyalty." Jake studied the intelligence reports with growing understanding. The Zephyrians had conquered dozens of civilizations but had never bothered to truly integrate them into their empire. Billions of enslaved beings throughout their territory were waiting for any sign that their oppressors could be defeated. President Helen Carter sat in the Oval Office on Earth, monitoring the situation through quantum communications that allowed near-instantaneous contact across interstellar distances. The reports from Zeph Prime were beyond her most optimistic expectations. Madam President, her aide Ben Williams announced, "We're receiving a priority transmission from High Chancellor Vexithara herself." Carter straightened in her chair as the holographic image of the alien leader appeared before her. Vexithara's crystalline features showed none of the arrogance that had characterized previous Zephyrian communications. "Human leader," Vexithara began, her mechanical voice carrying undertones of defeat. "I speak for the Zephyrian High Council. We wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Carter had been preparing for this moment since the expeditionary force departed Earth. "High Chancellor, I'm prepared to listen to your proposal. Your forces have demonstrated capabilities we did not expect from a primitive species. The damage to our military infrastructure is severe, and our empire faces internal rebellions inspired by your success." Carter leaned forward slightly. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We offer to withdraw all Zephyrian forces from this galactic sector and abandon our expansion plans. In return, you will cease your attacks on our territory and return our captured personnel." The President of Earth had dreamed of this moment, but she knew humanity needed more than just a temporary peace. "High Chancellor, your offer is insufficient. The Zephyrian Empire has terrorized this galaxy for centuries. Simple withdrawal is not enough." Vexithara's image flickered as electromagnetic storms on Zeph Prime interfered with the transmission. "What do you demand?" Carter's voice grew firm with the authority of her entire species behind her. "Complete abandonment of your expansion policies, immediate release of all enslaved species throughout your empire, withdrawal to your core systems, and formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty over this galactic sector." "Impossible. Our empire cannot survive such terms." "High Chancellor," Carter replied coldly, "your empire cannot survive continued war with humanity. Admiral Morrison's forces control your homeworld. Your shipyards are destroyed and your military is scattered. Accept our terms or face complete annihilation." The transmission ended in silence as Vexithara considered the ultimatum. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian High Council's response arrived in the form of a formal treaty, accepting every human demand. News of the victory spread across the galaxy through alien communication networks faster than any human ship could travel. Species that had suffered under Zephyrian rule for generations suddenly found themselves free. The name Earth became synonymous with hope for oppressed peoples throughout the stars. Admiral Morrison returned to Earth 6 months later as the greatest hero in human history. But he knew the real victory was not military. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as liberators who would not tolerate oppression.